Dignitas already getting ready, and of course up against Team Immunity. Pimp is going to be on the AWP, but the big question, Schneider, there he is he going to adapt to the team as quickly as they need him to going into this qualifying division after London? And of course the Australians all the way from the land down under. Again, decent performance in the group stages at the last major, but no guarantee, and this man's going to be under a lot of pressure. He stepped up last time on the AWP. Ricky is going to be the man to watch. But speaking of top players, we are joined by one this time. And no, Semler, the dream's not real. It's not you. We've got Get Right joining us on the couch. How are you, sir?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Sweden, first time I'm here.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
What do you think about it?
Well, I've seen the hotel and the studio so far. Driving through it looks nice, though, I will say.
How's the weather then? What do you think about our weather?
Same as Canada.
Ah, see?
So it's not
then you love Sweden, right?
What's that?
Then you love Sweden.
I do love Sweden. I'll see it some later. It looks like a very picturesque city, I guess you could say. It's quite gorgeous down by the water.
Yeah.
Without saying too much. Of course, Janko and Semler, you casted the last game, but you're going to be joining us on this desk. How are you? And we didn't really hear your thoughts of it coming into this, but what are some stories you want to see in this qualifying division?
In this, I think
in general,
right? But at least as far as this group is concerned, because we're going to be talking about them all day, pretty much Cloud9 need to top the group, and they've kind of got over that first hurdle. It was looking a little shaky on Dust 2 there for a while. I think we all had a bit of a scare for the North Americans. That was pretty much the map, though, for Rocket to actually get something done on, because after that, you kind of just saw what happened on Cash. They got mauled. But still, for me, like the big team to watch, pretty much out of like the entire qualifier is Cloud9, and not because of like the team. My heart goes out to Skadoodle. Like, please get that.
They're in this position where they are qualifying again, and they didn't want to be in this position. They wanted to make top 8 last time. They were completely dejected when they didn't beat G2, and of course, here we are again, this time without the safety of regionals. Does that get right for you as someone who has made it to every major so far and never needed to play in these qualifiers? Does this become a nuisance? Does this put more pressure on it? And specifically not having regional, does this start to play against teams like Immunity and Renegades?
I think so in a way, since like the qualifier itself is super hard since everyone is here. I mean, you have like supposed to have teams from China, and you have the Down Under as well, American and Europe as well. You're splitting there, and you have to 8 spots there, and you have to crush it through and actually get a spot for the majors. So I feel it's a big pressure for all the big teams are here, especially like Cloud9 and Dignitas are here. Like I guess they're one of those teams that have a famous organization, famous name, and big fan base and so on. So I think they have a lot of pressure since they've been here, and some have been here before as well. And they just want to, skip it, and they don't want to re-qualify again, I guess. Of
course. Well, and that's the point. And Dignitas, of course, didn't make it last time. One of the teams that is re-qualifying as well as Mouse Sports, because they lost their spot. Kingwin essentially took that one. But what does it actually mean to play in that major? How much of a privilege is it? And just as a team, as a player, overall for glory, sticker money, whatever it is, what does it actually mean to be in a tournament of that caliber?
I don't know. So it's like playing from the first DreamHack winner was the first major there, and just seeing how it's developed, like the whole tournament-wise, and like how big it's become. It's just like awesome to be there every time. It's just fun, if you ask me. I don't feel like pressure and so on, since of course if you look at the history, we always come to the final except the last one, and so I guess we always came up with the mentality, we're probably gonna end up here again, but since last time we didn't do it, so I guess it's going to be more pressure for us next time we go there to, enclose. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, didn't make the last one. That's a point we can come back to. But Dubai was better. What happened there? You guys played. You specifically stepped up compared to the results we've seen throughout the latter half of the season.
I don't know. Like we've been struggling for some months now, and we've been frustrated with our performance. And we felt like let's go there, have fun, and no matter what happens basically. So it's like more like a loosen up style and just have fun with your friends and just play and hope for the best basically. And you see we almost made it to the finals there. I mean, of course the TSM won the 2 last map against us in the best of 3 there. I think when we lost that game, we just realized that we started to, like, it's bad to say, but care more, because we were feeling like, hey, we're so close to making the finals, like all the nerves, all the choking point and so on just came up our face like it had been happening before, and we fell down as a team and like players as well. So we felt like if we didn't do that, we probably would be in the finals. But I mean, then we wouldn't have seen that awesome final it was. Like with the TSM game was going to 5 games, so you have crazy clutches and so on. So in a way, it's good that we weren't there. Another way, personally, it's not a good thing.
Yeah, well, you kind of mentioned something as well, putting pressure on yourselves, going back to playing a more fun style that's more successful. Because let's face it, you guys all love Counter-Strike. You've been playing it forever. It's your passion. Things have definitely been stressful. Do you guys feel like you were putting too much pressure on yourself? And side question, and maybe not as significant, you rang for Kingwin, stood in for Kingwin in a PGL game, and or was it? It was PGL. That's right, in the last chance qualifier, and you played exceptionally well just with that freedom. Was that something that contributed to reminding you that maybe we need to loosen up on NIP, or was that just a natural decision?
I guess in a way, it's kind of hard question to answer if you ask me, because since me personally has been playing so long, and I think during that way I pretty much lost it, like the fun part of it in a way, I guess. And I believe that I just needed to have fun again, how to just feel playing with different people every day, having fun, playing with your team, and just laugh around and just see what happens and try out stuff that basically are people like, are you even sure you're gonna try this out and it works? You're like, yeah, it worked.
Yeah, why not?
Why not, basically? So
interesting.
Just finding the passion again for the game was, I think it was a turning point for everyone in my team. So we're trying to just go with that again and see what happens again.
Well, best of luck. We won't pick apart NIP too much because, of course, there are other teams here that are playing for a lot this weekend. Yanko, we did mention it again, going in Dignitas. Schneider coming into this team. We'll shift our focus a little bit more toward this game in specific. You saw him a little bit at London. You weren't there, but you were definitely watching the tournament. Do you think that the way that they've tried to utilize him, not necessarily having the same communication skills, not speaking Danish, but playing off-site positions, has it worked out for them?
I think they're doing the best they can with what they have right now. From what I saw, they're not trying to overthink it, to overcomplicate it, which is why I think very important. You should just try and have that more of a loose play style or whatever. Like I see that sometimes Schneider is on his own, sometimes it's Kirby lurking, like they're mixing things up. Like this situation, it's extremely hard for MSL as an in-game leader because he has to adjust to so many different things, so many different maps, roles, positions, and everything. So Schneider is definitely an amazing player, extremely skillful. So we'll see how it goes for them at this qualifier.
Yeah, definitely. And again, Semler over there. Everything was going smooth on the desk until I brought you back here, giggling away while he's talking. Come on, man. I'm just got to pick up someone.
In a moment.
Can I see your socks? Can you bring those up and show the camera?
Let's see.
Let me see those. Those are beautiful.
Yeah, man.
I like them. Did you specifically match them to the suit today?
Specifically, no, you don't. You don't
match
do that.
every single suit you have. If
you don't
if you
match the
technical.
suit. You match the tie, man. Come on.
You match the tie.
Come on.
Okay.
It's all about
you
the
match
details.
The socks. Just pick the socks first.
Yeah, exactly.
What about you coming into this though? Again,
there
coming for the Australian. Perfect.
You got a good look, a little look. You see, it's all about the details, guys. If you're gonna wear a suit, always the way to go crazy with it is either your kerchief or your tie or your socks.
I've learned.
And that's
I've
the
learned,
thing.
right?
So you always that's a way to spark things up a little bit. You know, because suits look a lot the same, but if you're having fun, go with the socks. Right?
How's my cosplay today? Am I getting it right, Dad?
I'm thinking you're getting on there. I like the 4 colors. You know, you've gotten a little adventurous with the kerchief.
Match the pillow.
That's what I'm saying.
I know, it's perfect. It's perfect.
It's all about an eye for detail, right?
I did have to consult with you before this happened, I'm not going to lie. But we're getting there. We're getting there. No, okay, but your spot, coming in from the Australian perspective, obviously you were throwing the koala around, jump through. I don't know how much they paid you, but having some fun with it. What do you think the chances are against Dignitas here? Again, Dignitas aren't known for necessarily closing out games as of late, and inconsistency can be a problem.
It's all about the guy sitting second from the left over there, as far as I'm concerned, Ricky. For immunity. That guy's a monster, and we saw it over at the major, and he's got some sick individual level that he can show us at any point in time, it seems. He can kind of just unleash it. But with the op, he's had such a huge impact for that team, really making their matches close. So if he can actually, I mean, the thing is that if the team, now they've had a bit of time to rework things, go back to Australia, kind of just take their time, reset, even if the practice standards aren't as high over in Australia as Renegades have, constantly spoken about, where, Renegades don't feel like they're getting good prac because they just kind of mow through everybody over there. So like, okay, do things work or not, really? We can't tell. Immunity are one of those teams that get mowed over. So there is that to keep in mind. They're very firmly the second team in Australia.
Absolutely.
But they still have individual skill that could potentially upset a team like Dignitas that could go toe-to-toe with the likes of Schneider.
I feel like there's something that I personally forgot about completely, and that's like, and maybe you can pitch in, Chris, for this as well, like the fact that Zonic is like the coach basically for Dignitas, and we're talking about Dignitas having problems closing out games whenever it's like crunch time, they choke or something. Like, I don't know, Zonic's probably one of the best guys you can get for that. I mean, a legend in 1.6, and played for MTW for so long, had an amazing run with the team in 2008. And what do you think about that, like him helping out Dignitas now?
I think it's a good addition for the team, since I think Pimp did an interview not like recently with Aftonbladet, the Swedish one, about saying that they're so young team itself, and the experience they're having, it's not that big like you can get, for example, when they put in Snyder, for example. But just getting a legend itself, it should be boosting them morale-wise, and it should also be helping their tactic-wise, if you ask me. Because when you come into those close situations, let's say they're losing a 4v2, the team are doing like a sick retake and just winning it, then that could crumble a team a lot. And I think that could also be the reason why they're adding him in, because if that happens, and I believe Sonic has been in so many similar situation like that in 1.6, and he can just probably remember something that he remembered back then that turned his team around positive instead of being negative and like, oh, why did you stand there? Or like, small comments when you do in tournaments, because everyone is here. They want to qualify for a major, and it's like a big thing for them. And they don't want to, underperform themselves individually and as a team. So they're like having a big, like, how do you say, like rock on their shoulders. Like, like they want to just come over the obstacle to actually, qualify for a major. So it's gonna be a big task, if you ask me, because everyone is always talking about like, oh yeah, they have been failing to qualify before and so on. It's like, of course, when you're sitting there and you're seeing people writing that, or you hear someone like that, you're like, yeah, whatever, it doesn't really matter. But when it comes to like tough situation when you're playing game and so on, and then all of a sudden that mind coming to their mind, and they're they're screwing up with yourself. So I just hope that they can actually make it this time, because it's going to be like a big relief for them.
When you're looking at their group, though, you have to take into account the fact that they probably got one of the easier group draws out of the whole thing as well.
You say that, but then we just saw Rocat play very well, and Dignitas
that's a mixed thing, and that was also on a map that plays to the underdog, that plays to a mixed style, that allows for aim duels, where that's what those guys are going to excel at, right?
Their T on Cash.
But we see them go onto a more standard map where you're going to have to rely more on the tactics and more on the team play, and that's where they kind of fell apart, right? Sunny, we saw him just mad fragging, but then everybody else was kind of lurching behind him, right? So the thing is that for me, Dignitas, they have an edge in this group. Okay, Cloud9 are obviously going to be the big hurdle, and I think that they're fully capable of upsetting Cloud9. But if they fall back into that second seed battle, it's not the end of the world for them. So maybe they can take a little bit of that rock off, take the chisel to it, and make their lives a little bit easier, just because they did actually get a good group to get out of it in.
And for those of you just joining us, one of the teams will be decided today out of Group A. Whoever wins the winner's match after this is qualified immediately. The loser falls down and has to play on Saturday, coming from the arena, the live arena. So it's definitely going to be a battle for them if that's the long road, because they've got to sit here for 4 more days and watch what else goes on. But
that's true.
To come back to what you're saying, and Chris, you said it as well, Dignitas not qualifying. Does best of 3 help them in this case, where this qualifier actually is a full best of 3?
Sure. It's actually kind of funny when you talk about a best of 3, because I know a lot of the players from Dignitas been, how do you say, whining a little bit on Twitter when it's been other qualifiers, best of 1 and online.
So now they have to deliver then.
Online. I actually had this
online
argument the other night.
and LAN and so on.
Why are you coming at me, bro? Like, why are you so mad at me? I'm just like, because Pip, every single time you go onto Twitter and you start talking about stuff.
That's as well his own fault when he's doing that, because he's giving a lot of pressure to himself without even reason for it. Like, if they're failing to qualify, if it's a best of 1, that's just their own fault in a way, and they shouldn't be bitching about it officially on social media. At least in my opinion. But I don't know. I think they are more okay with this system, and they probably will deliver, I guess, in a way.
Well, they have no room for excuse now, right?
No, that as well. But if you look at, for example, that Geofinity tournament, when they were playing there with Nico back in the days, and they were like playing the group stage against us and like Envy and so on, and there was like the playouts against Envy, and they had like picked the map against them and so on. So I mean, I think they're just one of those teams that prefer it more, and I guess, everyone prefer best of 3, of course, but sometimes you have to just go with it and just play,
I think look at Cloud9, right? Cloud9 of any of the teams are going to be pretty happy right now, because imagine they'd lost Dust 2, like that additional pressure if they'd known it was just best of 1, right?
Yeah.
And Dust 2 was that close, like the nightmare, right? But then obviously Cash and then Cobble, I think that Cloud9, 90% they would have won both of those maps. Yeah. So obviously that's going to change the mentality a little bit.
Of course. Again, we'll come back. There's a lot more things I do want to talk about as well. Pimp now being on the AWP, getting away from his hot rifle spot. I also want to pick your brains on the new patch as well, because you're a great person who would have had some time to play with it. But first, let's look at the 2 teams that are about to play, Immunity and Dignitas. We'll start off with Immunity, and since you were such an advocate for them when you weren't on the desk, Semler, why don't you do the honors?
Oh, hush you. Well, I mean, imagine Rifler, just one of your core guys, basically, is just going to be on that side. Not a whole lot to talk about him because we really haven't seen like these big frag reel moments from him or anything that stands out. I mean, he's just kind of a solid core. This, for me, this man right here is, for me, like the standout player of Immunity, Ricky. And we saw that at the last major where he just went ham with the AWP, just like solo performance, but like godlike mad fragging performance from him. So whether we can see that again today or not, that's going to be the big question. There's going to be a little bit of pressure on him, I think, to kind of repeat that performance. But do you want me to continue? Okay. So
sorry. Yeah, I was making hand
you're like
gestures
pointing around and stuff. I'm like, I don't know what's going on, man. Okay, but like Sniper, in-game leader for the team, knows his stuff, knows the weaknesses, but also struggling to find a way to actually work out like what the problems are and how to make them actually happen in a live game, right? Because it's very different from Prac going into a live match on LAN as well. But a lot of experience there. James, for me, actually one of the more like the spirit of the team.
Absolutely.
In a sense. I mean, he's just outgoing. He's always wanting to do the interviews. He's always want to interact with the fans, but interact with everybody. And in the roster, he's always the one getting pumped up, getting hyped. And so I feel like he's kind of like the core spirit man of the team, a bit like Freakazoid for Cloud9, right? Like the guy who's always trying to be there to up the rest of the roster. And then
last man, Ustillo.
Yeah, Ustillo as well. I mean, Ustillo, you know, you can see from the KD ratio, you know, he's also kind of like their core, like just core rifler, right? Just there to do some work.
There's been whispers as well from Renegades about, you know, what if Ustillo were an available player? And of course, that's not feeding any rumors. It's just the what ifs that have been talked about from people that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you kind of are.
All right. Well, apparently I just made it one. All right. Now it's HLTV confirmed. There's
Sponge is going to be here later this week. You're going to get shanked.
It's fine.
He's an Aussie, right? They
Sponge
do that.
needs to go practice with a new patch first after losing his
It's not going to be the shank. It's going to be like a lead pipe. You know, that's what prisoners do, right?
That's what the prisoner. He is a plumber as well, so he's got lots of lead pipes.
Doubling us, you know, he's got it in the bag.
Yeah. Well, there's a look at their overall.
You have to search them.
Again, the rosters we saw. Rick 8, top player. Ricky, whatever. I say Rick 8 because it's Canadian. It says EH, so it's just like home to me. Hey. But no, definitely the player to watch. But we'll shift it over. And again, we already talked about a Pimp now in the AWP role. Yanko, I mean, this could be a big thing for them.
Yeah, I mean, Pimp, he's an extremely hard worker. You know, plays a lot. That's why he also whines. You know, he takes it a lot to himself. He's a member. Like he was playing for Western Rules back in 2013, which was like a top 2 team at the time, one of the first teams to challenge NIP in their glory days. Then we have Schneider, also like a former world championship, like one DreamHack winner 2013 with Fnatic, also upsetting NIP at that time as well. Like him and Pimp actually alternate the op at some maps. I guess it's like preference or how someone's feeling. Definitely a strong individual player. I think a good fit for Dignitas once they get some time to practice more, to brush up on their communication issues. MSL also, he's an in-game leader now for Team Dignitas. He also played with Pimp in that Western Wolves lineup back in 2013. He actually had to kind of become an in-game leader since no one else wanted to do it, and I personally think he's doing a good job. Moving on to AZ now. An extremely talented individual player, very young, as we can see, only 19 years old. Like he also had a short stint in TNSM while they were called Dignitas, like at last year's Gfinity. And last but not least, Kirby, the youngest player on the team. Amazing game also. Like the problem a bit, like people often want to mention, is like his consistency. He can disappear on some maps at some points, and I think that's going to be really important. Like he has to be consistent at this qualifier if Dignitas is to go through.
Well, one thing that I got to learn about Kirby in particular, like in the Danish scene growing up, is that he was seen as the second device. Like people were calling him mini device, apparently, because he was such a hard fragger moving up behind device, right? So device in his younger days, right, he just dominated people. And there was a bit of that with Kirby as well.
Can I just point out how serious Schneider's face is in that photo, just really quickly?
He's got a bit of the blue steel going on there, don't you think?
Oh, I would say so, yeah. Watched a lot of Ben Stiller in his days.
I mean, yeah, Kirby, that's the main thing, though. It's like, it's just, I think before we can knock him for not being able to bring it up, I mean, when you're playing pugs and online stuff, you know, it's a totally different scenario from actual LAN competition, and also talking about, you know, qualifying for a major, which is basically the most prestigious event that we have all year long. We have 3 of them, but, you know, those are the prestigious events. There's an additional level of pressure that's going to be put on Kirby that's going to make it a little bit more difficult. And considering his age, 17, the fact that he is still able to go toe-to-toe, I mean, that's really promising for us. That's like the new generation right there, the guys who are going to be carrying on the flag.
I feel like if I could give one advice to Kirby, it would be like watch some POVs of Cajun. Because like what I noticed about Kirby is like he sprays all the time with any rifle, with anything. And what you like notice about Cajun, it's like other pros also like emphasize it, like he's so calm, he's composed, like you rarely see him panic or anything. Like it doesn't matter if it's 4-14 or whatever, like he's always just bursting or tapping or whatever. And I think that's what makes him a great player as well. So I think that he could get a few tips from Cajun on that.
Well, I mean,
part.
Get Right used to spray all the time as well, and he would.
I would stop you there and say he should continue what he's doing and just go with it.
Yeah, but
Why should everyone always going by what everyone else is doing? He can do his own plays. I mean, just look at me in my glory days. I was always spraying. Doesn't matter what distance it was. Just do it.
Yeah, but
you're gonna kill it.
The game, right, Chris? Because you just like everybody's like, oh, we could totally do that too.
like,
and it's
we
like
got the
across
wrong guy
map trying
here
to
for my
spray.
point, like
Yeah,
basically.
but, you know, come on.
Yeah, that's true as well. But in the same time, it's like if, not to be like coming off topic and so on, but like Kjærby is one of those guys I've been very surprised by this year. Like in individual skill and so on. I mean, of course, everyone's been talking like he has been coming in slumps sometimes and going up and down as an individual. But I'm very surprised how good actually is. And like, what was it, for last year, like as ESWC, I think he was playing for Copenhagen Wolves against us in the ESWC
I
there.
think that's when he first showed up.
Yeah,
on
that
our
was like
radar.
first time I really saw the play when it was like, you know, showing off himself. I mean, of course, it was like first probably his international tournaments on, so he didn't really perform up to his level back then. But he was still like, you can see him like the driven, like he has the energy for playing and like he wants to prove himself. And I believe he will probably be like one of the better players at least next year, probably end of this year as well.
Well, you kind of touched on one thing just quickly, and then I'll get to you, Semler, about what you said about being up and down this year. And he has had the habit, and we talked about it a little bit in London, where sometimes he's not really present on the server. He's got those quiet games. Is that a matter of
if I'm not mistaken,
or?
it's just something. This is a bit. Something to consider as well. If I'm not mistaken, there was a bit of controversy earlier this year because I think he actually put a hiatus on his school to focus full time on the game now. So he's taking a break, right? So you have a little bit of a shift there because we'll take like Device and Zipmix for example. Like those guys saw school through to then come back full time. But Kjærby's decided to actually, you know what, I'm going to make CS my full-time focus. I'm going to put everything I have into this. And so maybe it could be, a little additional pressure on him saying that he's just taking a big risk, I suppose, which is just, I'm going to put all of my eggs in one basket.
All right. Well, I think we've touched on a number of points. There's still more to talk about when we get back. But first and foremost, we are going to send it over. We saw a little hint of it there on screen. The lovely long locks and the nice trendy man bun of Paula. And, of course, a much better-looking individual, Sniper from Team Immunity.
Man bun?
I've just heard someone laugh in production when you said that, so thanks, Matt. Sniper, how you doing?
Good, mate.
All right, so right now I'd like to know, clue myself up as well as maybe some of the audience, how's the current form of your team?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah.
I mean, what kind of practice have you had getting into the event?
So coming into this event, we had a 4-day boot camp at Inferno Online. We versed a heap of teams, mostly CIS teams, but we did towards the end get a few more Scandinavian teams to get used to it.
Sweet, so you've actually been in Sweden then for a few days already?
Yeah, we got here, I think it was Monday or Tuesday.
And how's it been going against the teams that you've been scrimming and with regards to the practice that you've been getting on European soil?
Yeah, so the practice we've been getting has been good. We got to play just about every map. So we're very confident with the practice we've got that, going into this game, it's something we can do, yeah.
Arguably, going into this match, you're kind of an underdog. Yeah. People are looking for Dignitas to maybe take you guys out. What would you say to those people? What do you think might happen going into this match?
Going into this match, hopefully we can get off to a good start and keep it. Dignitas, they're a good team, but I don't think they're unbeatable, like a Tier 1 team or something like that. I'm sure we can bring it to them. Yeah, I think it's going to be a good game.
What are your thoughts on them as a team, kind of maybe in a bit more detail? Do you think that they've got good team play? How do you guys stack up against them?
I think we're pretty similar to them. We've got good team play when we need to, so do they. They look like a pretty strategic team, and everything looks pretty calculated. I saw them play against Renegades the other day on Cobblestone, and everything just seemed to go really well for them. But then when they got across to the CT side, they lost a few rounds. So not really sure what to make of that. Could be the update, could be anything, but it just showed a bit of a weakness from there, yeah.
So maybe you picked up some kind of tips or patterns to how they might play when they were playing your Australian brothers.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we know them back to front almost, and to see how Dignitas pretty much pulled them apart and dismantled them, and then got so many rounds as terrorists, it was good to see. And at the same time, it let us see what they're obviously doing right to get rounds on Renegades. So knowing what they do will obviously make a difference. But I don't think we're playing Cobblestone.
So is that you want to avoid Cobblestone?
There wasn't any reason in particular to avoid Cobblestone. It's just we don't feel very strong in it competitively. We versed Virtus Pro on it. We did really well against them, but since then we haven't had very good results on that. And our strongest maps are Cache, Dust 2, Mirage. Everyone knows that, and they're letting us play 2 of them, so I'm happy with that.
Great. Well, best of luck in this best of 3, Sniper. Thank you very much for your time, and it's great, of course, to have the Australian representation from you and Renegades. So we're going to head back to the desk. They're doing some thumbs up, so I think they're ready.
They're thumbing up you, Paula, for being wonderful at your job. Way to go, buddy. But that said, guys, by the way, a rather mixed bag of gentlemen today. Paula's in like a leather jacket, looking super stylish. We got Serbian mobster, some hobo who drove here from just around the corner, and then the guy who's still trying to work on my style. So we've got a good mix. I think it's good. We got a bit of everything for everyone.
Hey, don't attack me, man.
Oh,
I meant to say, by the way, your hair is looking a little darker.
Man.
Is everything okay? Like, anything we need to talk about? You're looking a little darker, a little more emo. No?
Not being
Everything's
called a
fine?
hobo.
See, Lucas right now is trying to fill Duncan's shoes.
I'm trying, but failing
he's
miserably.
trying really hard.
I don't really fit into clown shoes that well, so that's why I'm not filling them in. We are going to have the veto coming up in just a moment. Sorry?
You got the suit.
I do have the suit. But we are going to look at the veto in just a second coming up. Before we do that, though, I want to touch on just something really quickly because immunity is... Okay, well, actually, it's here now. So let's focus on this. We'll come back to it. I want to get to the patch in a minute. But so starting this off, if you're not familiar with this graphic, it goes by the order of number, not order on the screen. So immunity started it off. They took out Overpass, followed up by Dignitas taking out Dust 2. And then it was pick of immunity taking Cache, Inferno by Dignitas. What's the ban after that? I'm looking for the number 5. It looks like Train by Immunity, and then 6 by is Cobblestone by
Cobblestone out by Dig.
And then Mirage.
That's strange. Weren't you just talking about that they didn't want to play Cobblestone?
Right.
Or,
And they weren't the ones that banned it.
Yeah, but that's the thing. That's the weird thing, right? Because if they're saying that's a weak map for them, why didn't they just get rid of it immediately?
I think it was actually about the last major, right? Like they were talking about they didn't really felt confident about it, like playing Cobble, or was it like...
But the thing is, like, the last ban was left to Dignitas, and it was between Mirage and Cobble, and they knew that they were going to pick Mirage.
I mean,
so
it's not surprising that Dignitas wants to play Mirage at least. It would be surprising at least if they pick Cobble, then Mirage is going to be banned.
I mean, Dignitas is a solid Cobble team.
Yeah, they are as well. So, but in the same time, I
risk.
think everyone in their team pretty much prefer Mirage over Cobblestone if it's going to be like standing between those.
Well, at least they've had it throughout London. At least they've had good experience on Mirage, or time enough to work Schneider into the roster. I think on the map.
they had it's 2 weeks since they brought Schneider in, and if I were Dignitas, I wouldn't have played London. I would have used those 2 or 3 days to practice more. Okay, you have that they went to a LAN, they played together in a LAN environment. There's an upside to it as well, but I don't know. I feel this map pool favors immunity, to be honest, because Dignitas played one Inferno only against Kick in the qualifier, and they only won on overtime. So
and this is the thing too. It's knife for sides. It's a momentum-based map. It's never even a guarantee sometimes when you do pick it. Just to update everyone as well, we saw MSL just sitting back down. There was a bit of, I guess, comms issues with his PC, so they just fixed that up. But again, that's the question I was going to ask, which we think this team favors. So you're leading toward immunity to favor this. Do you guys agree with that, Chris or Semler? Either of you jump in. Jump in, put your foot in, do whatever you got to do. Do the hokey pokey.
I'll go ahead and jump in then. I mean,
I would go for Dignitas.
Really?
Yeah, I
and
think
that's kind of what I had the feeling when I looked at this as well.
It's fun because we're here talking about how Dignitas may be weaker on Inferno, but that was their pick.
Yeah,
they decided to go with Inferno.
But in the same time, also you have to remember which people is always having the question, is immunity having enough practice against European teams and whatnot and so on. And since they're practice partners in Australia, isn't probably up to pair with the European teams. I mean, Dignitas has more or have more experience, so I would vote for Dignitas at least in this matchup.
And that's what I was going to say too. Is their Australian partners, like you were saying, aren't even often there. They seem to be traveling as much as Immunity. And if one's at one event, then the other's at the other. So you go back to Face It when Immunity was here, Renegades weren't, Gfinity, Immunity was there, then one left, the other came in for Face It Valencia.
Yeah.
So they're not even on the same schedules within the domestic. So you're right, the practice thing is a bit of an issue.
I mean, even if they were, it depends how much they would scrim each other because of also the domestic, which lands they're not as important, but it's about, you know, pride and everything. And I think that some of the Australian players mentioned in an interview that like their biggest problem with practicing in Australia is like that other teams have like pretty awful T sides, so they can't have their CT sides, you know, as strong, which we saw against like, let's say VP and even against Kingwin for Immunity on both their maps. They had 7 rounds ST against VP on Cobble, which is great. They had, I don't know, 8 or 9 ST against Kingwin. But then when they
swapped over.
Yeah, no, they had a CT. I was wrong. When they switched to T, that's when they had issues. Yeah, but you know that can be something that could present a problem for them going up against Dignitas.
This guy as well, Pimp, we just saw him on screen again. We talked a little bit about Schneider coming in, but that's the whole change right there, right? Taking Nico out, who was struggling a little bit, bringing Pimp in. Chris, you've seen Pimp again. Like Yanko, you said he was on that lineup that rivaled you guys almost 2 years ago, but now he's not on that rifle, and that seems to be his like bread and butter. What's your thoughts on that change?
Like during, I guess, Pimp's career in CSGO, I've seen an awful lot of times, so I'm not surprised that he would get up at least.
So wasn't that like a year and a half ago, right?
Yeah, but still, like he's been doing it on and off in a way. It's like, you know, similar to Forrest in those sentences at least. When Forrest picks it up when he wants to pick it up, for example, and Pimp's been doing the same, like then you can always discuss who's better with it and blah blah blah. But like you have seen it time to time, so I know that he's not completely lost. You know, that he needs at least 2 months to prepare for playing main op and so on. So I mean that's a good thing as well, since they're doing like this change recently, because he's still in that mode that he's really good with rifles and so on, and now he just need to step out a little bit with op. But when it comes to that point when they're getting money during the rounds and so on, and he needs to play with a rifle.
Family show, I think, is the word. I'm
sorry
supposed
about
to
that.
use at this point.
What are you talking about? It's DreamHack.
It's
You're right.
DreamHack.
You're right. It's DreamHack. I lied. Say as you would.
So if it comes to that point when they don't have no money yet, like left in the bank, and then he needs to buy a rifle and so on, so I mean, it's not a bad trade for him, at least it feels like. I feel like he's going to be pretty, confident with using rifles instead of being just focusing 100% on op and scouts and whatnot,
Yeah, and does that play in? So, I mean, it is a hard part. We talked a little bit about that, and like you said as well, having that London land just before coming here might actually be a huge beneficial factor for these guys coming with a little bit more practice, but and more so playing on the new patch, getting a full LAN. Whereas the Immunity guys, yeah, they've been here for a few days to boot camp it, but boot camping it and matching on it is another. Similar for you, do you agree with that? I mean, does it actually come into the fact that again, we saw a guy like Schneider whose favorite weapon was the M4A1S, and now it's nerfed. But which two teams has the advantage here? These I guess experience on the patch.
Experience on the patch, yeah, that's the I don't think it's going to be an issue, the patch, so much now, because if Immunity, if it's true that they have actually had 4 days to boot camp, that's enough time to get used to the M4A4 again if you want to make that switch, or if you want to stay with the M4A1, you've got plenty of time to DM, get some matches in. So I don't think that part is going to be an issue so much between both of these teams now. I still feel like there is just that little bit of wishy-washiness on Pimp not being a top-notch opera quite yet, or not finding his old form that he had back in the day. Going up against an accomplished opera like Ricky, because Ricky, like what we've seen from him is actually like pretty solid. Like if he's hitting his shots, he actually looks really scary with that op. So right now I'd put Ricky as like a superior opera to whichever of the ones that we have on Dignitas, because Schneider does like to pick it up as well every now and again, kind of like what Chris mentions when he's talking about Forrest, right? Right. Schneider's probably like, okay, I'll op this round. He's capable, but he's not like a main opera. Neither of them are. So that's actually, it's kind of what we talked about with Dignitas as well during London, is like, why don't you guys really just make the op like a pocket pick and focus much more on just having rifles to get the job done? Because you guys are all very consistent with the rifles. I mean, we've been praising Pimp and AZ in particular for months now, just the fact that they're able to lock down sites with those rifles. Why not just make that your strength, right? And then throw the op in there as something that may be able to shift something, like, just mess around with the tactics a little bit.
Yeah. It becomes a little one-dimensional, though, when you need to find that pick. Again, maybe it's Kirby's turn to come. Just a general thought from you, Chris, on the patch. What are your thoughts on it now, having such a change?
I think it's a lovely update. I think it was a necessary update as well, because we haven't had a major update in a long time.
True.
And I think that if you want to do a change, when there's already so many tournaments going on and so on, I think this was the perfect opportunity for Valve to actually update it. So I think it's just a fun thing, and what I believe and what I like with M4s and so on, like I was tweeting out, I only see the duels, so I don't really mind about the M4s and so on, and just keep playing with those instead.
Yeah, and the hitbox is obviously a big change.
Yeah.
Turns out the issue we had is a little bit more serious than we initially might have thought, so we'll take a short break. They are fixing it up right now. The admins are on it, and when we come back, we will get a little more discussion and then get right into the matchup. So don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be right back.